You guys aren't going to believe this. I'm walking down Las Vegas Boulevard and someone is peeing off a pedestrian bridge. I don't know how she did it, but her dexterity was impressive. And here's what's happening this week in gambling. Hello friends, and welcome again to This Week in Gambling, where we have more record revenue to report, more gambling expansion to discuss, but some dark clouds are on the horizon, and that is this week's big story. Last week, we reported on record revenue highs from all across the country, but no sooner had that show aired than more reports of all-time revenue highs started pouring in from states like New Jersey, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. What's more is that states like Nebraska, Maine, and Massachusetts are all gearing up for a sports betting launch at some point this year. And even New York State is now considering the regulation of online poker. But in the middle of all this good news and optimism comes something a bit more ominous: problem gambling. States with regulated sports betting are now starting to discuss gambling addiction, calling it an unintended consequence of regulation. And it really doesn't help that there are some operators out there doing some really stupid shit. Caesars, BetMGM, and DraftKings are all facing fines in the state of Ohio for a plethora of violations. Some as simple as not including a responsible gaming message or a problem gambling hotline in a prominent location in their advertising. Others as serious as sending a direct mail advertisement for gambling to people who aren't old enough to gamble. Now, lawmakers in Virginia, Ohio, and New York State are taking actions to address this issue, from forming committees to study gambling addiction, all the way to hiring more counselors to deal with the problems. And they're not alone. Meanwhile, in Massachusetts, where sports betting is expected to launch soon, there are some regulators expressing concerns over gambling operators forming so-called media partnerships. And down in Kansas, where sports betting is already up and running, there are legislators who now feel the topic of problem gambling needs to be revisited and that the state is grossly underfunded to deal with the problem. All of this is happening as gambling operators increase their media blitz leading up to the Super Bowl, creating what could be a perfect storm of sorts. We actually spoke about this topic specifically in a video we made a couple of months ago. I've left a link to that video in the description below this video. But some media outlets have already begun attacking our industry, and we'll tell you what they said right after the break.
This week's exclusive offer is for Heavy Chips. Right now, you can take advantage of Casino City player specials for the Heavy Chips Casino and other sites. Simply follow the link in this video's description to visit online.casinocity.com for the details.
This week's game review is for the Nefertiti Hyperways online slot from our friends at Game Art. This is a 5-reel game with 4 rows that has up to an unbelievable 60 million pay lines. You can play this game in medium, high, or very high volatility modes. Plus, there are scatters, free spins, and a bonus round. Find this review along with hundreds of others when you visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And finally this week, some media outlets in America have already started attacking the gambling industry, calling colleges and universities freaking idiots for making partnership deals with sports betting operators, and calling out the lottery for what they feel are predatory practices. Are they right? Do they have a point? Well, in my opinion, problem gambling in this country is most likely nowhere near as bad as our critics would have us believe. However, problem gambling in this country is probably much worse than what most operators would care to admit. So we have this divisive issue on our hands where lines are drawn based on personal opinions and experiences. It's not fair to punish 99% of the population just because 1% has a problem. It's also not fair to abandon and ignore that 1% and leave them to their own destruction, especially if it's your mother, father, spouse, or child. So, what is the answer for problem gambling in America? My friends, I'm afraid that's a question better left to smarter people than me.
I'm down with OPP.